Alright, I figure it. We'll tie up a little bait fish pattern today. We've down here in the Galveston area, we've got a little bit of a glass minnow hatch happening, and figure we'll go with something to imitate that. I like to tie it on a this is a mosquito hook from Owner 1/0. It comes with that bit of an offset hook point, so I just take some uh, pliers and bend it back in. I don't have a name for this fly. I don't remember where I found it exactly. Might have been a Facebook page. It's a snook fly. At least the guy that posted the picture of it said it's a snook fly, and I kind of recreated it. I wish I knew who tied it or who came up with it. If any, I guess if I ever find out, I'll post it in here. But basically, it's just a little bait fish pattern. Um, you can tie it on a bunch of different hooks. I just had some of these laying around and it seemed to work pretty well. They're pretty thick wire, super sharp hook, but any heavier gauge tarpon hook or even probably a B10S would work well. I've tied a bunch of them on wacky hooks that I cut the weed guard off just because it's got a real big hook gap. Tied for bass. I wanted a bigger gap in the hook for the ginormous bass I thought I was going to catch on it. But tie it in red. You could do white. Just always done it in red. I do a lot of red, but especially baitfish patterns. I like to think it might look like it's wounded maybe. A little bit of a bloody head, like a mullet gets whenever it's been hit. But the tail will be bucktail. Misplaced my gizzards. Trying out some new scissors. Apparently they're titanium. Got them at Hobby Lobby, I think, for like $10. Pretty reasonably priced if they are actually titanium. They're not. I usually like a serrated edge, but these aren't. So we'll see how long that lasts. But I tie this fly especially sparse because I usually try and imitate a glass minnow with it. It works really well in the green lights if you want a suspending fly, which is I think the original intent behind it. About 2 lengths of the hook shank. I don't tie on very much of the hook. I come about to the hook point on this one. I do like a little bit longer, especially for redfish. They've got that smaller mouth. Sometimes they'll just pop that back side. Just snatch the tail. So that little bit of a stinger hook back there seems to help some. But with like a bass, or I guess if I ever get the chance for snook, they pretty much inhale everything, so it may not matter. And then we'll throw a little bit of pearl crystal flash on there, just a little bit. Like I said, I do like a pretty sparsely tied tail on this. It's kind of a goofy looking fly when it's dry. It's I don't know, it's kind of big old hook and not a whole lot of stuff on it, but sometimes you need that bigger hook for stuff like stuff like big bass and you know, redfish, it's hard to get away with too small of a hook because you wind up bending it out. But I like about 3 strands on either side. And I just took one strand and folded it into thirds. Right down the center line. Looks like that lateral line, maybe. I don't know. I've been told before that the lateral line has a UV element to it. You know, fish can see UV, and so that flashy lateral line helps to imitate that. We can't see it, so even if we had something to put on it, we would be able to tell. But I'm running a new adhesive for this fly. I got this from Casey Smart's blog a while back. It is the best adhesive for eyes, and since I'm putting eyes on this fly, we might as well just keep using it. This stuff, super glue ain't got shit on fabric fusion for stick-on eyes. So we're about halfway done. It is a rather easy fly to tie. You can crank out a bunch of these suckers. And the rest of the head is going to be some Senyo's chromatic 1.5 inch wide brushes. You can make these yourself. I've done it quite a bit. A lot of times, especially for an EP brush, I will most of the time make it myself. But these ones that are a little bit more complicated with the flash and the tarantula brushes, stuff like that, I usually won't make that myself. But sometimes I will. It kind of depends. Take it and try and keep it all wrapped back. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. I do like it wrapped on fairly densely. You can get a bigger brush, like I forget what sizes they have them in, but some of the bigger brushes, and trim them if you want a bigger fly. You can't really get away with a whole lot more size out of these 1.5 inch, but it's really what I'm imitating anyway, so I'm pretty okay with it. Just keep palmering that on there. Right there. Try and split those hairs. Come in here with some shitty scissors, or if you got some actual snippers, that's the way to go, but I don't today. Lay that little wire down so it doesn't cut your thread. Come back just a little bit. Build up however big you want that head to be. I don't want it huge, but I do want a little something there. Losing scissors. And then for my dubbing brush, I have a pen that ran out of ink and a piece of Velcro. It's nothing but the best around here. Just get in there and really try and pull out all those fibers. You paid for all of them, so you might as well show them off. Go against the grain and then come back with the grain. Get them nice and slick back. And then try and split them just a little bit. And then I think these might be a bit on the big side, but I like big eyes. So I'll usually come down here and roughly where you want it, get you a good little dollop going and kind of work it in. It's a fabric adhesive, so it'll really lock all these fibers together underneath it and not just kind of create a rock hard wall like super glue does. I've never been very impressed with super glue as an eye adhesive. Just kind of get it rough to start with. Once you get both of them on there, we can be a little more precise with it. But, I've seen a lot of, especially the flies in fly shops, they'll have the eyes a little bit higher, more anatomically correct. But I have found if you don't glue them down on the shank, they don't last near as long. There's nothing for them to actually adhere to. Once you got them pretty close to where you want them, give them a bit of a squeeze. Kind of look down from the top. You might have to pull some hairs out of your line of sight. There's not a whole lot you can do to make them stay exactly where you want them to at this stage. They will dry rock hard. Just get them where you want them. And if you've got a dryer, something that turns them, that's money. If you don't, just kind of hang them somewhere. But there you go, you've got just a little minnow pattern. It really slicks down whenever it's wet. Creates really thin profile, and then kind of flares when you pull it and it'll cinch down or it'll collapse down and then it'll kind of pop back up as you pull it. You don't have to get the high dollar eyes. These are actually my last two, and I tied one up before this just to kind of get a feel for it. And I went to the craft store and snagged these little gems. I thought they actually didn't look half bad, but those eyeballs are, they're a damn part of the fly. But just little bait fish. And that's all there is to it. Just set it up, let it dry. After it dries, actually, I will come through. Now, let me see if I can find my UV light. My fly shop has been out of everything since I moved back down to the Houston area. So we're having to adapt and overcome. Usually, or in the past I've used Loon. I had a big bottle I bought a long time ago and it lasted me nearly forever. And now I'm going to try this UV Cure. We'll see how she does. I'll try the thin. I'd hate to get too much on there and not be able to undo it. That is a very broad applicator. Kind of let that sort itself out. If you've got a real rotary vise, you win on this one. I don't. I could throw it on the rotary dryer, but oh, this might be bad. Well, we're out of UV, but you get the idea. I just put a little bit of UV epoxy on the eye, just to give it just the tiniest bit of weight. And I'm gonna go find some batteries and finish this fly up.